Hey Jacob, this is Keaton Everett with ABC, going over your pitching video from camp. I'm going to go through and talk about your motion, mechanics, and sort of break it down frame by frame and go through a little bit and talk a little bit about everything. You know, you got a pretty good setup. You're opening up a little bit early with your lower half, and you're opening up a little bit early sort of right off the bat. You know, you're landing open, you're starting up open. So just a matter of getting you closed a little bit longer, staying in those legs a little bit more, and we'll kind of go from there and talk a little bit about each spot here. So right off the bat, all right, we look at your setup. All right, so we'll go back here to the start, and we'll go through the setup here. All right, so make sure, I know there's like a, you know, there's turf here and there's a little bit of hole, but we don't want to ever be pitching from on top of the rubber. All right, get in front so that foot's, you know, right along the side of the rubber, because, you know, you can slip off the back, and then, you know, also you're a couple inches farther back. So we want to try to pitch as close as we can to the hitters. So just try to get in that habit of getting that foot right against the front of the mound there. All right. Another thing too, talk about a little bit about your lower half. So you can see how your hip sort of turn back, so that foot's over that back leg. That kind of gives you that false sense of staying closed, and then you can see with that lower body, it kind of comes back down through, opens up just a little bit early. So what you want to try to get to is, instead of turning that foot back, is you know, keep the foot back here, but get that knee back there too. All right, so just kind of get those hips closed a little bit longer. So that's going to give you that ability to drive with your hips closed as long as you can here. All right, so that's just the whole thing, is driving with the hips, getting the hips out front, because you really are doing a pretty good job right here. You just sort of lose a little bit of ground, you know, in these next couple frames. You just kind of come down and just kind of lose a little bit, lose that momentum. And when you come down right there, you're going to see a little bit of a pop open early here. So, you know, if you were to kind of draw a line from that back foot, you can see it's kind of opened up a little bit early. It's a little bit tough to tell from the front, but you can see it's just turned out, and it almost looks like you're landing on the side of your foot here, and it's a little bit tough to see, but again, you know, you're just coming off. It does kind of look like you're on the side of your foot a little bit. So you're just kind of opening up earlier there a little bit. So just get those hips closed a little bit earlier. Keep them closed longer, and you're going to get a little bit better spot. You know, you're breaking your hands over the rubber, which is good. You know, you're getting some good drive down the mound. You know, now it's just a matter of staying back a little bit longer at your foot strike right here. You know, we'd want to try to see your knee a little bit farther on over that front foot, so just get a little bit more extended. The back leg looks pretty good here. You know, now we just want to try to see just a little bit more extension out front, so that knee isn't out over that ankle. You know, if your heel's right here, you know, it's maybe looking more about right here. But the biggest thing with your upper body is we want to try to keep this back farther. All right, so what I mean by that is keeping your head and your spine more perpendicular to a flat ground instead of the mound. You know, when you're young, you don't have the strength that body kind of wants to go with the mound. It kind of wants to go with it, and we've got to try to fight that and keep that head back over that back hip. You know, just think about keeping your ear over your right hip as long as you can. All right. Another thing too that will help you keep from leaning is to use this elbow as sort of a counterweight. All right. So you keep that elbow up around shoulder height. That's going to sort of make your body stay back a little bit more too. But you're doing good at keeping your glove out over your front foot. You know, again, just get stride down a little bit farther, and then through your release point, you can see, because you sort of cut off a little bit, as you can see that this elbow kind of start to lead here, and you kind of push the ball right here, and so you can see it's your actual release point is somewhere between these two frames, but you can see this back foot starting to pop up off the ground. All right, so we want to try to keep that back foot on the ground through that release. You can drive on over that front foot, and you're just going to create more power, more velocity at this point, instead of off that back foot a little bit. All right, so you're just losing a little bit with that lower half, but I mean, other than that, it's really not too bad. Just sort of those initial sort of tweaks there but you got good drive. You know, just sort of think about starting your hips closed earlier, quicker, farther down the mound to help you gain that little extra stride length. And then, you know, just work on staying back. That'll be the biggest thing for you, is keeping that ear over that back hip through that foot strike. Once that front foot hits the ground, then everything's rotating, driving forward, and then driving all the way through that back leg out over that front foot, keeping those both legs on the ground through that release point. Once that ball comes out of your hand, back foot should be coming up. So, you know, don't try to keep it on the ground all the way through that release point. But again, and also just making sure you're not stepping on the rubber too. So again, though, not too bad. You know, it's looking pretty good. And then on this one too, this first one, is you can really see how open you are landing. You know, this one is a little bit more extreme than your first one. So you can see, you know, you're landing a good foot outside of that line. You know, we should be trying to land somewhere around that straight line from that back foot to the catcher. So that's just the thing, is just popping open early, and then that's just causing that release point to kind of push that ball a little bit. But again, not too bad. Just work on staying in line, staying in those legs, and you're going to be good to go. So hopefully you have a great season this year. Thanks for making it out to camp, and we look forward to seeing you with ABC.